Videotape of the tragic scene of the condo collapse in Surfside, Florida, where 9 people are dead and more than 140 still unaccounted for. Now a class action lawsuit has been filed against the building's condo association, saying that, quote, upon information and belief, defendant could have prevented the collapse of Champlain Towers South through the exercise of ordinary care, safety measures, and oversight. Joining me now to discuss, Kevin Hirzel, an attorney specializing in condo association bylaws and regulations. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me this afternoon.
First, my bet is you are not surprised about the class action lawsuit being filed against the condo association, are you?
I'm not surprised that it was filed. I think society today tends to rush to judgment on a lot of different things. In my opinion, the filing of the lawsuit was premature because we don't even know the cause of the collapse at this point in time.
Attorney Donna DiMaggio Berger responding, quote, I would categorize it as despicable. The board's focus is firmly on helping locate more than 150 unaccounted for people, not dealing with an owner who has decided that while there are still people buried under the building, to file a class action lawsuit. What is your take on her argument?
I absolutely agree with that statement. The number one focus of the board right now should be accounting for all of the residents. Filing this within a couple days, I think, is a huge and unnecessary distraction. At this point in time, it's going to take months to unfold this and actually determine what the cause of the collapse was. Without knowing what the cause of the collapse was, there really is no basis to file a lawsuit. It could have been subsurface issues. It could have been construction next door. It could have been existing construction on the building. Sure, it's possible it could have been maintenance neglect by the association as well. But at this point in time, we really don't know.
What's your reaction to the report of a 2018 report to the condo association noting failed waterproofing leading to significant deterioration of concrete? How should the condo association have handled that?
Well, it's interesting because there's a couple of reports, and I think the media is only focusing on the report that indicated that there was major structural damage. And no doubt there was that report, but that report does not indicate a time frame as to when the repairs should have occurred. It also does not indicate that it's imminent that the building would collapse. There was a report that was issued about a month early in September of 2018, and that report actually graded the structural components of the building as quote unquote good. So with that knowledge, certainly the board should have taken some action. They did take action. They hired an engineer. They were in the process of making repairs. What this case is ultimately going to come down to is, did the board move fast enough with the information they had, and were they aware of the potential risks?
Kevin, what should condo associations across the country be doing in the aftermath of this collapse?
The one thing that condominium associations should always do is have a reserve study. So they should hire an engineer, take a look at the common elements every couple of years. Based on that, they form a budget to make long-term repairs. The reserve study will give them an estimate as to when repairs should take place and the estimated cost, so they can plan for this. So that should certainly happen. They should keep up reserves in order to make sure that that happens. And I think this is a cautionary tale that rather than wait, don't be cheap, try and do something sooner rather than later. Another thing that I think you're going to see coming out of this is emergency plans. For any kind of disaster, a lot of associations out there may not have an emergency plan. And I think this is certainly a cautionary tale. If you ever have a natural disaster, building collapse, anything like that, you should certainly be prepared and have a plan in place to deal with that. As best as I can tell, I think, given the circumstances, the condo association is doing a good job dealing with this.
Obviously, the first priority is to see if there are innocent lives that can be saved, and then recovering those who have lost their lives. But once that all gets worked out in the months ahead, who could face liability in this tragedy?
But, certainly the association is named as a defendant. The board members may potentially be liable, but it would be very difficult to establish liability against them. They are volunteers. There's liability protections under the law, typically speaking, for volunteers that serve on boards like this. And their job is not to be the expert. Their job is to rely on experts. And what I can tell, they did rely on some expert advice here. The question is going to be is whether that expert advice was appropriate. So the people that were giving them advice may have potential liability, the board members and the association themselves.
Kevin, we have to leave it there. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Mike.